Hello. Okay, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. My first experience with this character, Super Mario, was with Donkey Kong on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I did play Super Mario 3 and there was that giant leap with the N64, and that was with Super Mario 64, and that game at the age of around 7 or 8, I can't quite remember, but I was around that age, it just blew my mind, and I have fond memories of playing that game for the first time. I never quite got into the most recent releases, but I'm aware of them and I've seen them being played. But it's a character that I've grown up with, and I was brought up on the Nintendo system, and so the world and the characters bring back some fond memories. But when it comes to the character of Mario, I am more of a retro fan, like it was the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, and the N64, and even the GameCube a little bit. So that's where my sort of fondness and nostalgia for the character is kind of originates from. So we've got the Super Mario Bros. Brought to us by Illumination. What did I think? Visually, I really dug this movie. I feel like the way they brought this world to life is just beautiful. There's so much colour, and for me they really captured the essence and the vibe of the games. It was just great being in this world, and I think they did a great job at squeezing as much of this world that we know from these games into the frame as possible. Like whether there be a couple of seconds here or 3 seconds there. This was a nostalgic experience visually, and they definitely lean into the nostalgia very, very heavily. From the sound effects to the score by Brian Tyler, they do a really good job in tapping into that nostalgia. You've got the side scrolling, you've got Mario jumping through obstacles. It just took me back to being a kid again, playing Super Mario on the N64, and it's all there. It's all there on the screen. Like I said, they really do try and squeeze as much visually and into all aspects of this experience to really bring you back to being a kid again playing these games, and they achieve that. It brought a smile to my face. I liked it. The voice acting was pretty solid all around. Anya Taylor-Joy was great as Peach. Jack Black for me was the standout though. I loved him as Bowser. I just loved how he wasn't doing Jack Black being Jack Black as Bowser. I liked and appreciated that he attempted to give it a character. Chris Pratt did a really good job, to be honest with you, as Super Mario. I was one of those people that were like, oh, really, Chris Pratt, Super Mario? Why don't you just get the original guy who is in this? But I actually think he did a pretty good job, and he really captures some of those iconic moments with the character perfectly. You know, there's a moment in the trailer where he just goes, woohoo! And it's like, woohoo! Yes! You know, he sort of nails that. He nails those classic moments. And yeah, he's good. With what I actually liked about the movie, this is where it ends for me. So what didn't I like with this movie? The story, for one. I mean, if you can call it a story. The story is so thin that it's barely a story. It barely exists. You know, it's very basic. And I just couldn't get invested into the characters and their journeys because it just felt so soulless and empty. You know, there's no real character development. The script was very weak. I think one of the biggest issues with it was the writing. This movie just felt like it was made to give us 90 minutes of a nostalgic rush. And to a degree, that's okay. Because, as I previously said, you know, I loved that nostalgia aspect of the movie. And I liked it. But I need to at least care and be invested with the story, the journeys, and the characters, and I just could not get invested into that aspect of the movie. It does have some fun moments, like the battle with Donkey Kong that you see in the trailers, or the go-kart chase, but it all just felt like moment after moment of these moments to just kind of blast us back to our childhood with no real depth or heart. The story is ultimately about family, but it's handled so lightly that it's barely existent. A good example of another animated movie that handled deeper characters and deeper themes really well was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And I just couldn't help but be reminded of Puss in Boots because it was also a visually stunning animated movie, but with a story that you cared about because the characters were just written better. Yes, it also had a basic story, but you at least cared for the characters and their journeys. Okay, so you might ask me, well, it's fun. Why can't you just have fun? Turn your mind, turn your brain off, and, you know, just to be transported back to being a kid again and just enjoy it for what it is. Yeah, that's fine. And I think children are going to love this movie and have a good time, and it's going to make a lot of money. And there's going to be many a person my age, older, who played on the Nintendo Entertainment System and the N64, who will also have a lot of fun and will really enjoy this movie. But for me, unfortunately, I just needed a little more. It lent too much into the nostalgia with no real substance. Overall, by the end of this experience, it just felt like a greatest hits of Super Mario. That's how this felt. Of just sort of 90 minutes of moments that sort of really just transported you back to playing the games. And yes, that's great because I love nostalgia and I love being reminded of what I grew up with loving and, you know, what made me the person I am today. But when it comes to the film, the movie and that experience, I just needed a little bit more. The Super Mario Brothers, for me, was a nostalgic experience that reminded me of playing those games back when I was 7 or 8 years old. And a lot of people who have really enjoyed this film, that's going to be good enough. But for me, I just wanted a little bit more. You know, yes, it reminded me of playing those games again, but I can also just go back to those games and revisit those games and play those games again. For me personally, when it comes to the movie, this just needed to be a bit more than that, than just reminding me of the games, which I think they did a great job with. But like I said, I could just go back to those games and revisit them. For me, this just needed to be a little bit more. For others, you know, it's fine and that's what they want, and I think that's absolutely great. You know, I want this movie to do well and I really think it's going to do well. But I just needed more character and more of a journey. This was just nostalgia moment after nostalgia moment with no real depth or substance. And yes, this is a kids film, but when it comes to the humour, the writing and the character, I think they kind of forgot. When it comes to those aspects of the movie, I think they kind of forgot that we've also got 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, even 60-year-olds that played with these games, that know these characters, that are familiar with this world. And I felt like our age brackets, all we really got was the nostalgia aspect, because even the humour didn't work for me. It's kind of classic Illumination humour, and it's not really... I kind of smirked here and there, but it wasn't that great. So yeah, they are my thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie. It was fun, it was nostalgic, and it gives you that kind of fuzzy feeling. But ultimately the experience left me sort of underwhelmed. It was very empty and soulless in regards to the characters and the story and the journey. But visually, along with the effects and the voice acting, they do a fantastic job at bringing this world alive. And I appreciated that, but it just wasn't quite enough for me. I am going to see the film again today, this afternoon in 4DX. And I think it's going to be a really great experience in that format. If I was going to see the movie again in 2D, I don't think I would. It would be a struggle for me to go and see this again in 2D. But yeah, they are my thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers, and I'll be giving the Super Mario Brothers movie a 4.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts, but what did you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. Perhaps you disagreed with me. I do think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, I feel. But unfortunately, you know, it's just how I felt personally. It's just my personal opinion. There might be a couple of you that do agree with me. Let me know below. When was you first introduced to the character? Let me know. You know, I've got some real fond memories of playing Donkey Kong on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was a second-hand system, so it wasn't brand new, but I just loved playing it. And then you had Super Mario 3 on the Super Nintendo. It was fantastic. But the standout for me will always be that memory, that real fond memory will always go back to the N64, Super Mario 64. So yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews for my Geek in Wales, just ramble on, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot. I'm very close actually to 100 subscribers. I'm currently sat at 99. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you guys soon.